Welcome back to Photoshop CC 2021 Classroom in a Book Chapter 5. In Part 1 we went ahead and played with our liquefy feature and we played with the egret, and now we're going to go ahead and work with this panorama. So if I go into Bridge, I will see that there is an entire folder. Make it smaller, sorry. Way too small. A little bit bigger. All right, it says Files for Panorama. So you can see I've got a number of pictures here that I want to make into one single picture. So sometimes you want to create something, or maybe you've got a scan of something and you've got pieces, you want to kind of bring them together. An easy way to do that is to do it in Photoshop. So let's go ahead and go to Photoshop. Let's go ahead and close. I've got my bird and my other open. Let's make sure nothing's open. Let's go down here to File, come down here to Automate, and we want to go ahead and do Photo Merge down here at the bottom. And we need to go ahead and find those files. So it's going to say, where are the files? Let's go ahead and browse. I'm going to go into my lesson number 5, Files for Panorama. I'm going to click on the first one. I'm going to shift click and grab the last to number 4 and say OK. All right, now I need to make sure that I've got my items together before I go ahead and say yes, go ahead and do it. So I want to make sure it's a perspective merge. And I want to make sure that all of my items down here at the bottom are selected. So I want them to blend the image together. I want the vignette to be removed. I don't want any geometric distortion. I want the content aware to be on. So let's go ahead and say OK. Depending on your computer, this may or may not take a little bit of time because you are asking for quite a bit of magic to happen. So while this is doing its thing, we're going to go ahead and just kind of let it align and work through what it's doing. You know, as you're working on photo merge, think about how you would take the pictures. You want to make sure that you're overlapping your images. You want to make sure you're using that consistent focal length. Use a tripod. Now all of a sudden, poof, we have those 4 images, and we can kind of see how it has created all those different masks to bring that together. So let's go ahead and do a select and a deselect. And let's do a flatten of the image so we can make it all into one and correct a few things. So let's go Layer. I'm down here to flatten image. And let's do a file save as. Let's do a first initial last name _ Photoshop Classroom in a Book, chapter number 5. And this is, let's call it, wow, not 65, Panorama. All right, and I'm going to make sure I put it in my lesson 5 folder. That way I won't miss it when I'm going to turn my items in. All right, so it looks good, but it's a little bit dark. So let's go ahead and play with a levels adjustment. So, I want to go ahead and cancel. I want to save that as a PSD. So file save as. Try one more time. First initial last name _ Photoshop Classroom in a Book, chapter 5, Panorama. And we'll save it to Photoshop this time. And save. All right, sorry about that. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is create a levels adjustment in order to play with the colors a little bit. So let's go here into our adjustments. We want to grab levels. Levels is this second one over. So let's go ahead and create that adjustment layer. And we want to go ahead and define what is white. So we're going to grab the white dropper down here in the bottom and go ahead and click on part of the clouds in order to tell it what we think should be white. So you can kind of see, you can always do a revert and undo, the different ways of kind of leveling those out. You can also play with your histogram here, kind of bring those in, play with the midtones, play with those other items a little bit until you are happy with what you've got. And once you're happy with it, let's go ahead and say OK. All right. All right, so we're going to leave that there. So the next thing we're going to do is we want to crop a little bit. So you can see we have kind of some weird stuff going on. We got kind of some ghosting going on of the railing where we missed part of it. Our horizon's a little bit crooked, so we're going to go ahead and let's flatten our image again. So layer, flatten image. So it's going to go ahead and bring that levels in. Let's do Control S to save. Now we're going to go ahead to our crop tool over in our toolbar panel, and we're going to go ahead and make sure we're going to straighten. So we want it to be on ratio. So make it ratio and clear so you can actually play with these things. We want to straighten something. So when we straighten it, we want to actually drag our horizon along the shoreline here so we can kind of straighten it out a little bit. All right, so now we've straightened it out. If it had not brought our crop down, you would see that we would have, let me make it a little bit bigger, some areas that would not be filled. So I want to make sure that I am cropping out all of that clearly is, not going to be filled. So let's go ahead. I am pretty happy with it. I'm not seeing the weird bar that's missing. It now looks like it's straight. Everything looks pretty awesome. So let's go ahead and check and allow that to do its work. And let's save our changes. Now, one other thing you can do is change out, maybe you decide I don't like the sky in this one. So let's go ahead and do a file, save as, and let's call it New Sky, Chapter 5, New Sky, and save. So Photoshop does have a few magic things. So let's go to Edit, and let's come down here to Sky Replacement. And it's going to give us some options. It's either got some skies that are already built in, or you can even bring in your own sky. So you can look and see you've got quite a few different types of skies available. So go ahead and replace it with any sky that you like. Oh, that's a little creepy. I'm going to go with creepy. And you can go ahead and change the brightness. You can change the different type of adjustments. So go ahead and say OK when you've got the sky the way you want it. So you will go ahead and turn that new sky in as well. So you can see just how easy it is to photo magic some of these images. So let's do a Control S and save. And I'm going to go ahead and close this part, and we'll pick you up in part 3 for some image distortion.